Hi and welcome back. Thank you for joining today. If this happens to be your first time here, my name is Rachel and I blog at the blog thislovelylittle.farmhouse.com. And today we're just going to be doing a lot of our normal kind of things. So summertime, we have the little kiddie pool out. It's definitely a highlight of our days. The hot weather, just swimming in the little pool is so perfect. The kids love it. And the ducks. Every time we have any water anywhere, all the animals show up. I'm surprised the pigs weren't over there at this moment. They were a little bit before this. But the ducks go and piddle in the water, whatever you want to call that. I just love when they do that. I find it so mesmerizing just listening to that sound and watching them do it. And I'll do a little sound here where you can hear what they sound like. But I just love watching them do that. Everyone enjoys when the kids go swimming and splash water out of the pool. And of course the turkeys are never very far away. They, anytime you're outside, they're gonna come over wherever you are. Thankfully these two are not mean. The ones we had before were pretty bad. You had to really watch them close. But these two, they just kind of mind their own business. But if you're out, they're gonna go where you are. All the animals tend to congregate wherever the people are. If the cows are out, they'll wander over where you are, the ducks or the turkeys or whatever. It's just funny, even though we're people and not animals, they're still very social. And my niece was over and had the wonderful idea to put this little slide in the pool. So they have a little water slide in the pool. It's so fun. I'm working on implementing a big batch bread baking day where I bake enough bread in one day to last the whole month so that I'll have it in the freezer and I can just pull it out when we need it. And we are milling our wheat in this mock mill. It's my new grain mill that I got. Well, it's not new. I've had it since last summer, I guess, or fall. And I've been using it all that time and really, really like it. So we use almost 100% fresh milled whole grain wheat. I do still use some white all-purpose for recipes that call for it, but for the majority of the time we're using the fresh ground wheat and we really like it. I buy my wheat in bulk from Azure in 50-pound bags and then I'll store it in 5-gallon buckets with the twist cap gamma lids. It works really well doing it that way. And then a lot of people are like 50 pounds of wheat. But if you make all your bread and your muffins and all that stuff from fresh ground wheat, you go through way more than you think you would. So today we were making some bread. I did 4 loaves and it was not enough. I'm definitely gonna have to, those 4 loaves only lasted less than a week actually, which it's kind of when I bake bread, everybody wants to eat it really fast. So I'm not sure how I'm gonna manage that. I might have to do twice a month for a little while until people get used to having bread in the house more or something like that. So as you can see, we're all in the kitchen together. I really do try to let my kids be in the kitchen helping me as much as possible. They're at the age where they love to be in there with me doing whatever I'm doing. And I really want to be able to say yes to that as much as possible. Of course, there are times where I just have to say no. Either, it's really late, I'm just trying to get supper finished so everybody can get fed and get to bed. Or sometimes it's just been a really hard, overwhelming day and I can't mentally handle the extra help that it is. But I really do try to get them in there because I love having them in there with me and knowing that they're learning all these skills and soaking all that in. You know, a lot of us, most of the adults are learning this stuff as adults. But I'm really excited that my kids are being immersed in it day to day, and they'll be way far ahead of like where I was. I had to learn to bake bread. I had to learn sourdough. I had to learn a lot of this stuff as an adult, but they'll already have these skills and hopefully know some of the reasons behind them. Now, I checked this bread for the window pane test. I checked it for the window pane test a lot of times and it never passed, and we needed it and needed it and needed it. And I'm really not sure why it didn't, but it still turned out good. This was, we did end up adding more flour because it was really sticky, but it never passed. So, and there are a lot of jobs that your kids can do in the kitchen. You can see here Mary Emma is cracking eggs. That's her new favorite job to do in the kitchen, is cracking eggs. And she's actually gotten really good at it as she's been able to practice and help and do it more and more. She's gotten really good at cracking eggs. She's cracking up today a dozen eggs. Gonna scramble them up for a dairy-free chocolate pudding that I have been addicted to ever since I discovered it after having my last baby. It's really good and it's dairy-free. And for me, I love dairy. I love all things dairy. And so in order for me to not eat the dairy when I'm tempted to, I have to have something else that's really good that I can satisfy myself with. And the pudding has been that for me. And even baby James getting in there, handing her the eggs. You know, some people, my mom was like, people are going to say, I can't believe you're letting kids do those eggs. But, I mean, they have to learn, and they, you know, you can't hear me, but I'm on the other side always saying, be careful, don't drop it, be careful. So that's what's going on the other side of the camera, is that I'm constantly reminding them to be careful with the eggs, to, you know, not drop them. But you'd be surprised once you let your kids get in there and actually start being involved, how good they will do. And the pudding, yeah. So the pudding sounds pretty disgusting when you're thinking scrambled eggs, but it's actually really good. And I promise you, you cannot tell that it has scrambled eggs in it. You do it in a blender. I've given it to lots of different people and they all loved it, and nobody knew it had scrambled eggs in it. So you should definitely give it a try. You can Google, just do a Google search for scrambled egg pudding or something like that. It's actually a Trim Healthy Mama recipe that I changed up a little bit because I was wanting more of the calories when I was nursing and having it, and I'm still nursing, so I'm still wanting more of the calories. It originally uses just egg whites. I used the whole egg. And then the original recipe uses cocoa powder and a non-sugar sweetener. And I didn't have all that stuff, and I didn't like the way it tasted originally when I started making it. So I started making mine with chocolate chips, which actually I kind of liked better because then it has more of a mousse-like texture when it sets up in the refrigerator. So if I were doing it with chocolate chips, I kind of do it different now. But it would be 12 eggs, 1 cup of chocolate chips, and then 3 cups of almond milk. And that's a pretty big recipe of it, but that's currently what I'm doing. And then you blend it all together in your high-speed blender and put it in the refrigerator, let it all set up, and it's really, really tasty. And here baby James decided he was going to try to crack him an egg, and I had to tell him no, he couldn't crack eggs yet, but he can hand them to Mary Emma. So you can see him pouting a little bit. He wanted to crack his in his cup. But he loves carrying eggs when we go to get them. He always wants to carry one in his shirt. He's funny. See, he's saying he wants to do it too. As you can see, I'm scrambling these eggs in my cast iron skillet, and there are a couple of keys to making eggs in cast iron. One is to make sure your skillet is nice and hot, just like normal, just like you always want to do. Anytime you're cooking anything in it, you want to get it nice and hot before you put your food in it. And you also need some fat, just the same as always. I typically will use coconut oil. Sometimes I use bacon fat, anything like that. But as you can see, they come out amazingly. But the third is don't fuss with them. So put them in there, and just let them sit for a minute until it almost is like they get a skin on the bottom, even for scrambling. And then you pull them away and then cook them again, pull them away, cook them again. You don't want to sit there and just stir them to death because they will stick. But if you do it like this, as you can see, you can cook fried and scrambled eggs really easily without sticking in a cast iron skillet. And that's all I use these days. I'm not into nonstick. About to fix up my bread, so I'm gonna get it out and divide it. I did a 4-loaf recipe, which I actually think I'm gonna have to, mine for some reason doesn't fill up my loaf pans. I don't know if my loaf pans are a little bit larger than what the recipe calls for, but I'm gonna start making this be a 3-loaf recipe, but it's a 4-loaf recipe, so today I divided it in 4, and I'm gonna do 2 regular loaves, 1 loaf of cinnamon raisin bread, and 1 loaf of chocolate swirl bread, which is our favorite. We love it so much. It does not last long at all in our house. It's like making dessert. It's so good. And to make it, you just do a regular recipe like you're gonna make cinnamon raisin bread. I'm pretty sure this recipe calls for 1/4 of a cup of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of cinnamon, and then sprinkling on raisins. So I did, for the chocolate bread, for the raisin bread I did that. And then for the chocolate bread, I'll do the 1/4 of a cup of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder, and then chocolate chips sprinkled on top. And it's really good. Like I said, we love it. I usually will make twice as much of that because me and the kids eat it so fast. And Eric likes the cinnamon raisin bread the best, so he'll eat that. And these bread pans, I recently got cast iron bread pans. I did lots and lots of research on bread pans. And the reason I went with the cast iron is because they were the only high quality bread pan other than ceramic or glass that didn't have a non-stick coating. And like I said before, I'm kind of, non-stick's one of those things in my house. I'm like, it's a no-no. It's just one of those things. I don't want non-stick coatings in my house. So the cast iron is non-stick naturally. And the other thing I really loved about them is that they are basically indestructible and they're gonna last forever. And hopefully one day I'll be able to hand them down to my kids and they'll be able to make their bread in them. So that's why I got them recently and I really love them. I actually think I'm gonna end up getting a couple more. They're non-stick. And you'll see in just a little bit when I take the bread out the oven, it just pops right out. You just have to put a little thin coat of oil on them. And this is my bread rising, and you can tell that they did not fill up the pans quite like they should have, but it was still delicious. While the bread was baking, we took the opportunity to give the stove a good wipe down and clean it. It tends to get dirty really quickly when you're cooking 3 meals a day from scratch in your house. It does not take long. And this is an O'Keefe and Merritt. It's a 1950 stove. My mom, I grew up cooking on a antique vintage stove. My mom had one and I loved it. Like the whole entire time I grew up, I loved her stove and I wanted one. And then when I got married and moved here, we didn't have gas at all. So I just kept the electric that we had. Well, I, kind of started asking, kept asking. Eric finally agreed to get me one. And so I found this one. I'm guessing it's been about 4 years ago. I found it on Facebook Marketplace. We drove to Texas to get it. Brought it home, and it sat in my kitchen for probably at least a year before I even got it installed because I had to do a lot of restoration on it. I had to take it all completely apart, clean it really well. I had to take apart the valves where the knobs are and clean them. It was a lot of work and I had to learn it as I went. So if anyone's interested in that, there's a really good Facebook group. I think it's called Antique Stoves or something like that. And there's a really good blog where she walks step by step doing hers. So if you're interested, leave me a comment below and I can tell you exactly what the name of it is. But I love my stove so much. It's definitely the centerpiece of the kitchen, that and the sink, which is also it's a double drain board cast iron enameled sink, and I love it so much. So this bread, as you can tell, look, it just pops right out. Don't even have to run a knife around it or anything. It just comes out. And there's no bread stuck in the pans. I just wiped the insides of them. You don't even have to wash them because that's the beauty of cast iron. It gets better the more you use it. And this is the chocolate bread, slicing into it. And this loaf was almost gone right after it was baked. And you can see it didn't even cool down enough for the chocolate chips to be solid. It has been so dry here lately. We haven't gotten rain, which is unusual. I guess, the next month or two we'll probably start getting it every day and it'll be flooded. But we have not been getting rain. I have been having to go out and water the garden. I have some heirloom beans and peas planted on this row that I'm watering. Hopefully I can keep them alive long enough to get some seeds off of them. And then my tomato row as well. These are some heirlooms called Black Strawberry. I'm so excited. I can't wait to try them when they get ripe because they look so delicious. I was really late getting my garden planted this year, and I actually, believe it or not, I still don't have it all planted. But fortunately here in Louisiana, we can plant almost all summer long. We have a really long growing season. So this is my long row. I have about, 20 or 30 different varieties of heirlooms in here. Because I just love heirloom tomatoes and all these blooms. I think that this variety is raisin. I would have to look again and see, but I was just stunned by how many blooms it has on it. And this, in the weed patch, I think is the only non-heirloom variety I have. It's Sun Sugar. I got it from my local nursery. I'm pretty sure it's a hybrid, but it was the first producer. It's the first one that we got ripe tomatoes off of, and they're so good. They're super sweet. But it is the only non-heirloom that I have, and I probably will keep growing it because it's really delicious. I definitely need to tackle that weed patch because it's quickly getting out of hand. And then while I was in the garden working, this is what the rest of the family was doing. Hannah was sleeping. This is an old mower that my grandfather gave to me and Eric after we got married, and so it has that sentimental value to me. He got it running, and this is what they do with it. They ride it around and just enjoy playing. It's kind of the kids' lawnmower is what he calls it because they can drive it. It's not really, they don't do it by themselves, obviously, but they enjoy just putting along on the little lawnmower. And this is Millie, our milk cow. She is getting really close to calving. I'm expecting it any day now, but she's more bagged up now than she was then. She's getting close, and we'll be back to the milking routine again, which I'm excited about. I miss it when we don't have milk. She's a good cow too. She's getting on up there. She's about 9 years old, but she is a good cow. So on this row, I was just planting some regular green beans and some pink eye purple hull peas. We grow those every year because they grow really, really well here. They're not my favorite, but they do grow really well, and Eric loves them. The kids will eat them. So I'm planting a nice long row of both green beans and the pink eye purple hull peas so we can get some veggies to eat out of our garden. And the ground, we had to reopen it up. This is where we originally had potatoes planted. And it was really too wet to be working it when he opened it up with the tractor. And I'm telling you, this was the hardest row I have ever planted because it was so clumpy and cloddy to open it up and all that. It was like a huge battle, but got it done. I still have to do the other row on the other side of it though. But slow and steady wins the race, hopefully. Hopefully they'll make and we'll get a good yield out of our garden. And this old hay pile has proven to be one of the favorite play places of the two little people while I'm out in the garden working. It's So fun to watch them. You know, it's fun to watch kids be bored and figure out things to play with and ways to play. I love watching them when they're bored. And now it's evening time and everybody's ready for their supper. It's chore time, so everybody's getting fed. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and know that I really appreciate you being here. I really appreciate everyone who watches my videos, who does like them, share them, subscribe. It really means so much to me, and I couldn't be doing this without you watching my videos. So thank you so much for being here, and we will see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.